Hey everybody, Matthew Paulson here. Today we are going to talk about raising money from existing investors, who should be in charge of your company's marketing, pricing for a SaaS business, what to do before starting your business, and how to validate a startup idea. Let's do this. This is officially episode 5 of the Startup Q&A show, the online video show that helps small business owners, startup founders, and entrepreneurs grow their businesses faster and achieve financial freedom. Whether you're just getting started or if you have 100 employees, Startup Q&A will give you actionable ideas and advice that you can implement in your own business. We are going to take a little bit of a break from the format today, and in lieu of doing a growth hack of the week, I wanted to provide just a little update on the show, where we've been so far, and where we're growing. So this show launched in kind of December of 2016. It is now January, so this is the 5th episode. And I would officially like to declare that this show is now out of beta. The production values are much more where I would like them to be. I got a real camera, a real microphone, good lighting, a nice background. I feel like the content is getting dialed in. We're finally now on all of the channels that we want to be, so you can now subscribe to this show on iTunes, on Stitcher, on YouTube, on Facebook, through email, Google Play Music, just about anywhere that you would watch or subscribe to a video show or an audio podcast, you can now get this show. So I'm pretty happy that the kind of we're well on our way to the kind of be everywhere strategy of making this content available really anywhere you would want to get it at. And if there's somewhere that the show isn't that you would like it to be, let me know and I will try to figure that out. So my personal commitment for this show is I plan to do one episode a week every Monday. It'll come out Monday morning around 10 a.m. Central Time on all of those platforms. And I commit to doing at least one episode a week kind of through the end of 2017. So by the end of this kind of first season, there should be between 50 and 55 shows. And at that point, we'll kind of reevaluate and say, is this show helping me accomplish kind of the goals that I have for it, which is, just to build my personal brand, help people out, and promote some of my other projects. So that's kind of my plans for the show. We're going to keep doing it, and hopefully it will turn into something that a lot of people find valuable. I also wanted to provide a quick little update on some of the projects that I'm focusing on in 2017. Other than this show, I'm working on another book called Online Business from Scratch. And that book is kind of a step-by-step guide that kind of relies on the 10 years of experience that I have in building and growing online businesses, and just teaches anybody how to identify a niche, how to build a brand, how to create great content, how to do marketing, how to do monetization through digital products and online advertising, and then how to scale up your business. So if that book is of interest to you, go to the domain fromscratchbook.com, and we've got a launch planned in kind of mid-February. I don't remember the exact date, but if you sign up there at fromscratchbook.com, you'll get updates for the book. After that, I've got another little book coming out called Earn Extra Income, and that book pretty much shows different ways that you can earn money on the side in the next 30 days. So if you're broke and you need some extra cash, this book will kind of show you, here's what you can do right now to make some extra money. That will probably be coming out in April or May, and then I think after that I'll be taking a break from writing books for a little while. I've also recently taken on a role at an event called 1 Million Cups here locally. I'm now part of their organizing team. So what 1 Million Cups is, it's a Wednesday morning networking event where somebody pitches their business for 6 minutes, and then there's 20 minutes of Q&A. So I'm excited to be part of that group. If you are in Sioux Falls or in South Dakota or the Sioux Falls area, I encourage you to stop down. It's Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. at Prairie Berry East Bank. If you're not in Sioux Falls, which most of you probably aren't, they actually do these in about 100 cities across the country. So just go to 1millioncups.com and you can check it out there. Other than that, our Angel and Fund, Falls Angel Fund here in Sioux Falls, we're getting ready to make our first investment. Hopefully I'll be able to announce that in an upcoming show pretty soon. And other than that, Market Beat, GoGo Photo Contest, US Golf TV are all going reasonably well, and I can plan to continue to grow and build those businesses as well. So those are the updates. Let's dive into the questions. Every week we take 5 questions that are submitted through Facebook or through our website, startupqa.co, and we try to answer them. So if you would like to have your question answered on the show, go to the domain startupqa.co or go on my Facebook page and just comment on one of the posts for these videos, and I will try to answer your question on a future episode. Okay, the first question comes from Steve Brumwell, and he asks, how do you approach current angel investors to invest more when your metrics have not hit the hockey stick yet and you need to buy more time as you know exactly the right route? So what Steve is asking is saying, hey, I raised some money from angel investors. It's going okay. It could be going better. I haven't quite hit the sustainability mark where my business can pay for itself and just keep on growing and growing and growing yet. I haven't hit that mark. I need more money to accomplish that. How do I do this? This can be a bit of a challenging conversation to have with your investors, because what you're effectively saying is that, the money you already gave me, I spent. It's no longer there. I haven't hit that sustainable traction yet, and I really need some more money to make that happen so that I can build a self-sustaining business. And this is actually probably a harder conversation for you to have than for them to have, because they recognize that 7 out of 10 businesses they invest in are going to fail. That's kind of the typical number for angel investors. So if they put money in your company, they probably put money in a lot of companies like yours and say, well, this is just going to be one of those that updates that was only so-so or not going so well. They get these types of updates all the time. It's not going to be a big shock to them that your company hasn't achieved the type of traction you want to get. So I get these emails pretty regularly. I've done 20, 30 deals on AngelList, and the founders send out updates saying, hey, this didn't work out, or hey, we're trying to keep the company alive, but we're really struggling here. These are high risk, high reward investments, so your angel investors won't be shocked to find out that you need more money and that you haven't hit the traction you would like yet. So really kind of the first step to raise more money from your existing investors is to first kind of identify what your capital needs are. How much money do you need to hit that mark of place of sustainability where you can run the business without taking a lot more money on, unless it's for strategic reasons. So do you need 100,000? Do you need $500,000? Do you need $1 million? I would start with that number in mind before talking to your investors. Then next it's really a matter of going back to your existing investors, have coffee with each one of them and say, show the progress that you've made so far, highlight all the good stuff you can, tell them what the challenges are, and then tell them what your plan to reach sustainability is, and then what your business could look like if you are able to accomplish everything you want to accomplish with that next round of money. Obviously, any people that gave you money for your business, they believed in your company enough to give you money the first time. They probably still believe in your business as long as you didn't really screw it up and disappoint them in some way. So if they still believe in your business, there's a pretty good chance they might come back for round 2 if they are financially able to do that. They also might make an investment in your company as kind of a defensive play of their existing money. If an angel investor knows that, hey, if I put more money in this business, it'll probably work. If I don't put more money in this business, it's probably going to go bankrupt. Sometimes people just give more money so that the business can stay alive and kind of protect their first investment. They do that. If your business isn't doing very well, they might ask for more favorable terms than they got the last round. This is referred to as a down round, where the terms are less good for you as the company than they would be, before. And that's not always the worst thing in the world, depending on the fundraising environment. But be aware that can happen if you haven't really gotten traction yet. And then if your existing investors aren't willing to put more money in the company, you should really ask yourself why, and then you can go approach other investors. Sometimes your existing investors will have kind of a first right of refusal, so kind of be aware of that in any paperwork that you have in place with them, and know what their rights and abilities are when talking to other investors. But hopefully if you convince one group of investors to put money in, you can convince another group of investors to put money in if the first group declines to reinvest. All right, next question. Thadeus Giedd asks, in a small or medium-sized organization, does it need to have its own marketing department? Or can you assign marketing duties and roles among the staff and have them responsible for it? Obviously, anything is possible, but can it be done to the same standard without hiring a professional, quote unquote, to operate that and that alone? Brand, marketing, social media, etc. So I think there's a lot of different ways that you can skin the cat that's marketing, especially in a small business. You can spread that work out amongst your team. You can have a dedicated marketing person, or you can you hire an agency to do some things for you. However, I think it's important to have one person that is kind of the point person, the person that's effectively your chief marketing officer, the person in charge of marketing. They don't have to do all of the work themselves, but marketing really has to kind of fall under their umbrella, and they need to be directing all of the different pieces of marketing in your business. So in a startup, you're going to be wearing a lot of different hats. So one of the startup founders should be this chief marketing officer person, or that role initially, along with all the other hats that they wear. So probably you're not going to have one dedicated marketing person when you're first getting started. It'll be one of the founders' roles, and then they will have to work with contractors and other people to help create all the marketing material and the campaigns that you want to attract customers to your business. I think when marketing gets distributed among a lot of different people, I think you can come across with some inconsistent messaging and branding. If you got 5 different people coming up with different messages for your business, your content and your material, anything you produce for marketing, will just look very inconsistent, and it'll be very hit or miss. You might do a couple things well, but miss out on some other things. So really, I think it's important to have one person in charge of marketing, whether or not they execute all of it. I do think there is a bigger question here that's probably more relevant to kind of startups and small businesses, and that's, should you hire a marketing agency to do campaigns for you, to do all your advertising, to do your logo, your website, your brand? Should you hire that out, or should you try to hire somebody on your team to do that for you? And I think, marketing agencies, digital agencies, they can do some really good work on some types of things. If you need a logo, if you need a website, if you need some brochures, anything that's kind of marketing material, that type of stuff, you're perfectly okay to outsource that to an agency. What people tend to get in trouble with is when they outsource advertising campaigns and paid marketing spend to digital agencies. Typically, an agency will be more than happy to set up those campaigns, but they typically don't take responsibility for the results. So you might give them, say, $10,000 to create a campaign. They'll take 20% of that as their ad spend, so they'll take $2,000 for their fee. They run the campaign, and whether it worked or not is kind of on you, the entrepreneur. They won't take responsibility for it. They won't do any kind of commission thing where they only make money if you get made. If you make money, they just will never do that. So because the incentives are different, their incentives are to get money from you, and your incentives are to get money from your customer. It's typically kind of hard to find an agency that is going to work, and really care about your performance and work with you without charging you a ton of money to make campaigns that actually work. I really believe that startups, small businesses, entrepreneurs, you really have to own your marketing strategy. You can get people to help with the design and the content, but the strategies that are actually going to get your customers in the door, I think you need to own that internally and make that one of the core competencies of your business. You can't hand that off to somebody else and think that it's going to go well, because usually it doesn't. You have to own it. You have to develop the strategy. You have to test it. You have to prove out whether or not it works. That has to happen in-house, and it just can't be outsourced well. All right, next question. Kevin Gilbertson asks, how do you figure out pricing for a SaaS business? So this is a question I ran into several years back when starting up MarketBeat. I wanted to create a subscription offering. I had no idea what to price it at. So I did some research. There were financial products priced as little as $5 per month, and there were some that were $100 per month. There were some that were $200 flat fee, some that were up to $5,000 flat fee. And it was a challenge to figure out, what to price this thing at. And what I ended up doing, there are kind of 2 strategies to price a SaaS product. One, you can kind of do an evaluation of the existing market and do kind of a competitive market analysis. What other SaaS products are there in my space? What are their different tiers? What are they charging at each of those different tiers? What kind of pricing or what kind of features and benefits are available at each of those tiers? And then you can kind of see, okay, where does my product or service fit in terms of kind of the feature set and a price point? where in the spectrum of companies do I fall? And then you can kind of price yourself either at the high end of that if you're going to have a really quality thing with a lot of features and benefits that creates a ton of value, or if you're going to be more of a commodity thing that targets lower end people, you can target, do a lower price point and hopefully make it up on the volume. So my friend Kevin here, who's asking this question, he runs a business called TinyURL, and if I were Kevin and I was in his shoes, I would be looking at services like Bitly and any other link shorteners that offer analytics or statistics, and even Google Analytics, and check out services like that and what's the pricing for these things, what kind of services do they offer, and then where do I fit into that, and what could the pricing look like there. The other way to price a SaaS business is to do what's called value-based pricing. And what value-based pricing is setting a price for your product based on the value that it creates in your customer's business. So let's say you have a SaaS marketing tool and that if a customer of a certain type uses it, they'll make $10,000 a year from it. So if you can charge them $1,000 per year and they get 10 times the value that you charge them, this should be a no-brainer for them. It can be kind of difficult to determine how much value am I actually creating for my customers, and the way that you're going to figure that out is going to vary a lot depending on what your SaaS app or service kind of business does, and it's going to be very specific to each business idea. For Kevin, for TinyURL, if he launched some kind of subscription service where you had analytics and stats, you would need to say, okay, what is the value to knowing how many people clicked on a link, where they came from, all that stuff, and then divide that number by 10 or so, and then you could come up with pricing that way. The other thing I'd like to note about SaaS pricing is that you should never really just have one price. You should have a good, a better, a best pricing that have more features and benefits and fewer limitations as you go up in price. So typically you'll have an opening kind of basic tier that most everybody will sign up for, and then you'll have another pricing tier that's kind of 5 times that price, and then another one that's like 3 to 5 times that price as well. So you might have a $10 a month price point, a $50 a month price point, and then like a $200 price point per month for enterprise users. So it's not uncommon for that, $20 a month, $50 a month, $200 a month. Those tiers are pretty common, and then you kind of target each tier to a specific type of user. So an individual for the low end, a small business for the medium, then enterprise for the high end tier. All right, the next question comes from John Small. John asks, what should I do before trying to start my own business? Should I go back to school? Should I get some training? Should I save some money? Should I do some research? Should I do some kind of trial of my business? What should I do to get started? Or what should I do before I get started? So first, let me kind of talk about the things that some people do that you probably shouldn't do. First, if the goal is to start a business, you probably shouldn't go back to college and get a degree. You don't need to wait 2 to 4 years to start a business. That's just unnecessary. You can learn what you need to learn in a lot less time and for a lot less money. Also, professional training program, you probably don't need to do that. The only time you would do one of these types of things would be if you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or something else that requires a specific certification or degree to actually do it. Obviously, you can't be like an unlicensed chiropractor, so if that's the type of business you want to start, then you do need to go back to school for that. But in most cases, you really don't need to go back to school or do any kind of professional training. You don't need a general business degree to run a business. I have a computer science degree, an information systems degree, and a Christian leadership degree. I've never taken a real business class in my life, and somehow that hasn't stopped me. I've been able to learn what I need to learn through books and podcasts and just research and dealing with competent professionals. Really the types of things that you need to learn how to do to run a business, you can almost learn that better outside of school than you can in school. You should also avoid spending too much time just reading general startup content, reading books, listening to podcasts, going to conferences. It's very easy to consume just a ton of content while you're thinking about starting a business. And what can happen is that you make the mistake that you're actually doing something, and when really you're just consuming business entertainment content. So be careful on how much learning you do before you dive in. Any learning that you should do should be very specific to the task that you're focused on right now. So if I'm trying to figure out a marketing strategy with Facebook, I should be learning about Facebook marketing. I shouldn't be learning about Twitter marketing or YouTube marketing or accounting or any of the other things that go along with running a business. Only learn about the things that you're focusing on right now, and just don't spend that extra time on other things in lieu of actually working on your business. So don't get the degree. You probably don't need it. Don't do a lot of general content consumption. Only consume content on the immediate things that you are working on. What you should do, on the other hand, is first, get your personal finances in a pretty healthy kind of spot. Pay off as much debt as you can. Get 3 to 6 months of savings in the bank. Do all the Dave Ramsey kind of things that you would want to do to get yourself in a good financial position anyway. With the startup, cash flow can often be kind of up and down, or it could just be non-existent for the first few months. So really, you want to put yourself in a good place to kind of weather the storm and just be in a place where you can live without income for a few months if your business doesn't take off right away. Dave Ramsey has a class that's called Financial Peace University. I used to teach it. If you don't know anything about money, that's a good place to start. They'll teach you how to get out of debt, how to build savings, how to buy a house, how to do retirement accounts, how to do insurance. So that's kind of a good beginner course if you have never really looked into personal finances and don't know much about it. The second thing I would do is try to validate your startup idea. So this is kind of a process of identifying what is the idea, what is the solution, and then is this solution going to actually work? And this actually leads us into the next question directly, which comes from Klongerbo, and he asks, how do you vet a startup idea that is purely in its infancy? So there's kind of a 5-step process that I like to use to vet kind of a startup or a business idea to see if it is actually going to work. So step 1 is to kind of look what solutions are already out there and see if somebody else has tried to solve the problem that you propose to solve, and say, what is the solution? Is it any good? Can I do a better solution than this existing solution? And can I build something that's maybe 5 times better than what's out there right now? If you're just going to be a Me Too business that copies somebody else, usually that doesn't work out. So if there are existing players in your space, you have to identify what your key differentiators are that are going to make you different and better from any existing solutions that are out there. The second step is to identify your customers. So get a good idea of who your product or service is for. How old are they? What gender are they? Are they married? What are their interests? Do they own or rent? What part of the country do they live in? Do they have kids? Try to describe your customer as best as possible so that you can have a good idea of the types of people that you want to sell to. The third thing is to identify the size of your target market. So if you owned 100% of the space that you plan on entering, how much revenue would you have per year? So if you had a total monopoly, people spend, say, $1 million a year on cell phone cases. If I owned 100% of that market, I would own, $1 million a year in revenue. So if your kind of maximum size of your market is in that $5 to $10 million per year kind of range, that's the size of your market. That's okay if you're not going to raise money. But if you are going to raise money from investors, they are going to want to see you have the capacity to grow to more than $10 million a year in annual revenue. And ideally even more than $100 million a year, because they're looking for that home run. They want you to knock it out of the park, and that if you grow really big, that you have the capacity to generate a lot of money from the markets that's there. You might own the yarn needle market or some market that's pretty small, which would be a great little lifestyle business, but for an investor, that's just not going to be big enough for them to care about. So if you do plan on raising money, you're going to have to think about how big is this space, and is it going to be big enough to attract the interest of investors. So step 3 is to talk to potential customers. So go find people that are in your target demographic and psychographic, and talk to them and kind of present the problem the way that you see it and the solution that you have, and then ask them how they're currently solving the problem that you're trying to solve and what they'd be willing to pay to solve that problem. And just try to talk to about 10 people that are kind of meet your demographic and psychographic criteria, that are people that are in your space, that have your problem, that may have tried to solve it themselves or could benefit from any kind of solution you offer. Get feedback from them, ask a lot of questions. Don't spend a ton of time pitching. Say, what would an ideal solution be? How much would you be willing to pay? And just questions like that. You'll really learn a lot by talking to people. That's a mistake that a lot of people make early on. They just don't talk to enough people, and then they end up building a solution that nobody needs for a problem that doesn't exist, or their solution doesn't actually solve the problem. And the way to get around that is just to talk to people all along the way and get feedback as you're building out a solution. Okay, step 5 is develop a value proposition and ask for a sale. So after you've gotten feedback from your customers, go and develop a product offering that says, here's my solution. It does this, 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 and this, and this, and this is what it costs. So take that value proposition, that product offering. Don't actually go build the product yet, that comes later. Just describe the product in detail and put a price on it, and then go back to your customers, potential customers, and say, hey, I have this solution, would you buy it? And then if they say yes, then ask for their credit card right then and there. Ask them to prepay, give them some kind of discount for buying it before the product launches. And then if they are actually willing to hand you over cash for a solution that doesn't exist yet, then you probably have kind of a winning product or service kind of idea on your hands. Sometimes what can happen is you ask people if they'll buy it, and then asking them for a credit card. Those are two different questions. Would you buy it? Sometimes people will just say yes in order to kind of make you feel good or happy, even though they wouldn't buy it in real life. When you ask them for their credit card to prepay, then you're asking with their wallet, and then that's how you kind of get the real answer. So give them some kind of big discount for doing that if they're willing to prepay, and that way they're helping you out. Their money is helping fund the development of your business. They'll feel good about it, and they'll get a solution to the problem that they want. So those are kind of the 5 steps. First, see what's out there. Step 2 is to identify your potential customers. Step 3 is to identify the size of the market. Step 4 is to talk to your potential customers. Then step 5 is to develop a value proposition and ask for a sale. All right, so those are the questions. Let's move on to the final segment of the show, which is the resource of the week. In this segment, I recommend a book, a podcast, or a tool that can help you grow your business faster. So today's resource of the week is kickbox.com. So one big problem that people have with email marketing, which is a marketing strategy that I love, recommend, and even wrote a book about, is that they have a list that is either inactive, or they haven't emailed it in a while, or they've bought a business and it came with a list, or they just have a bunch of emails, but they can't really email them through their email service provider because that list is inactive, or there were otherwise some problems with it. Maybe it wasn't double opt-in and you're just not sure whether or not all of those emails are valid. So if you were just to upload a random list to an email service provider like MailChimp, send to it, you might have a very high spam report rate or high bounce rate, and then they'll shut down your account because those rates are too high, and they have to turn off your account so that they can protect the reputation of their IP address space. They don't like it when you have a bunch of spam reports or a bunch of bounced emails because that hurts their reputation. So they would need to take action and stop that. So kind of kickbox.com is a tool that will go through an email list that you have, whether that's your existing mailing list or one that you acquire, and it'll go through and remove most of the bad email addresses. So they can look for domains that aren't active. They can check with the mail server to see if an email address is active. They can make sure it's in a valid format of an email address, and they can strip out most of the email addresses that are no longer good. So it is a great tool to take to kind of run an unengaged email list through, just to remove all the bad ones. So that way when you upload it to MailChimp or Infusionsoft or Aweber and you want to email it, then they won't shut your account down, hopefully, or yell at you for having too high of a spam report rate or too high of a bounce rate. It's a great tool. If you're kind of a programmer type person like I am, you can actually use Kickbox as kind of a front-end filter for email signups. So whenever somebody signs up for marketbeat.com on our website or for our email list, we send every email address through kickbox.com or kickbox.io, I think it's it's kickbox.com. And then they will tell me whether or not that email is valid or not, so that if I know it's an invalid email address or somebody just typing in like screw@you.com, Kickbox will say that's not a valid email address, don't even bother with it. And then that helps keep my reputation with my email service provider, which happens to be SendGrid. It helps me stay under their good graces. So Kickbox is just kind of a great filter for email addresses, whether it's kind of on your front end sign up funnel or kind of on the back end if you need to go through and clean an old list. It's a great tool. I really like it. So that is the resource of the week. So if you would like to subscribe to Startup Q&A and get next Monday's show delivered you automatically, go to the domain startupqa.co, click on the most recent episode, and then there are links to subscribe via email, via Facebook, RSS, iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. All those links are there. So you can also follow me personally on Facebook at facebook.com/Matthew Paulson Page. And then on Twitter, my user ID is at MatthewDP, so Matthew and the letter D as in dog and P as in pony. And I think that's it for the show. If you're watching on YouTube, please press the subscribe button. Otherwise, thank you and enjoy your week.